Smart Options Optimizer 2.0 is very much improved over the first version, starting with another method for determining option usage, and that's a quick scan. Still, full tracer is a much better method for scanning the database for unused options or meta values. As you can see from the start page, you can see much more information. Options are now displayed a bit differently, and you have more information displayed about both methods. Still, it's a good idea to check out the documentation PDF file that contains a lot of information useful for using both types of both methods provided by the plugin, tracer and quick scan. As for some other changes, you have now tools panel where you can clear all the data gathered and reset the plugin settings if needed. To see how both methods work, we will first run a tracer. I will not run it for 2 hours, but to start it off, and we'll see the progress will be displayed here. While one of the method is running, the other cannot be used. Also, analyze and autoload panels will not be able to work without both methods finished. So while any sort of tracing or scanning is working, analyze and autoload can be used. You can stop tracer anywhere, anytime you want, but for most comprehensive data gathering, you should run it for at least a couple of hours based on how much traffic does your website get. Tracer is not slowing down your website any more than 5 to 10%, so running it even a full 8 hours or so will not be a problem, and the more it runs, the more the data it gathers will be useful to determine which options are safe to delete and save space. Also, that will have a big impact on auto load feature. So the longer you run it, the better the data for auto load will be gathered, and you can better decide which options to keep it as auto load and which to disable. For this test, we will stop the tracer manually, and that's it. Also, we will run immediately a scanner so that we will get data from it also. And while the scanner is running, you cannot do anything else. Scanner is similar to a tracer in that regard. So while they are not finished, you cannot use anything. You can not use anything else. For best results, you should use tracer because quick scan is not very reliable. This is caused because of the method the quick scan uses. It scans all the plugins and themes files in search of options or meta options used. And the reason this happens that way is because there are different coding methods for loading these options. Let's see here. First, we have normal method where you list exactly how your option is called. So if we search this file for this my option name, it will be found, and we will know that it's in use in this plugin or file or whatever. But in some cases, plugins will use different methods to load their options. They can use prefix. So instead of having my option name, you will have prefix and option name. So searching for this in this case will not uh, give us any results because we didn't actually find my option name. There are even much more complex methods to do this, like this here, with two variables creating the actual name. Uh, to determine if a file contains my option name in these two cases will require a very complex parser that is working similar to PHP, so we need to interpret the file from the beginning and to determine uh, variable values and all kinds of things to get actual values here, and that's very complicated to do, and this plugin will never have such options. But QuickScan is useful because we can quickly determine in many cases use of some options, and QuickScan is meant for use for experienced users only because they will be able to recognize options by their names, and it will help them decide if an option should be deleted or not. If you need reliability, you should use full tracer, and you should run it for at least 4 to 6 hours to get as much data as possible. Analyze panel contains much more information now, starting with the overview tab, where you can see in short information from documentation about results and sort of a reminder before you start deleting records. Here you can select which dataset to load, tracer or QuickScan results, and that's it. You will see options here. First you will see options that are no longer loaded. In trace method this is very reliable, so none of these options was loaded during the trace run. Now you can see also source. If plugin was able to determine where this option is used, you will see the source plugin or plugins or themes listed here. If a plugin is active, you will see that the active sign. You will see that later. If option has serialized data, you will see it here. Also you have size and status for auto load option for each record. Second panel shows options that are not traced, so they are not used during the trace run, but they are found in some of the plugins or themes, and some of them are active, as this example here, GDPress Tools is active, and it has a reference to this option, but trace was not able to trace it. So this maybe is in use, maybe it's not, it's up to you to decide. And potentially needed are options that cannot be traced that easily and cannot be found in files. And typical example of that are settings for widget. So you can delete it or not, it's up to you. To delete data, simply select record you want to delete and click delete. You will have an confirmation dialog where you need to confirm once again. Once you do that, options are deleted but still available in this list at the bottom as deleted. Sort of a reference. Once you run tracer or QuickScan again, they will be retraced, and you will not see deleted records like this. If you load meta options, you will see something a bit different, because each meta option can be used more than once. So you will see count and total size. You cannot preview these options from here, but it is the same. Also, here is one interesting source called marked as not identified. This means that option name is way too common, and it was found in too many plugins to list. So there was no certainty which plugin was actually using this. List will show sources if less than 4 plugins or themes are using an option here. If more plugins are using, it will be marked as not identified. As for the quick scan data, it's pretty much the same, but due to the process of detection, you will see something different. No longer loaded is fairly reliable. These options are found and they belong to plugins that are not active, so these options are not used. And this lists options that are not found in any of the plugins or themes installed, so there is no way to know if they are used or not. Based on their names, you may be able to determine if option is used or not. But in any case, options on no longer loaded panel are pretty much safe to delete. If you enable or disable plugins, this list will change. So whenever you activate a plugin, it will record the current state of your website. And as soon as you activate some other plugin, this list will not be valid. So whenever you activate or deactivate plugins, you should rerun tracer or scanner before deleting data to avoid using all data for analysis. Next panel is auto load. Here, based on gather data by tracer, this is only possible to see if the tracer was used. You will see which options should be auto load and which can be set to should be set to no. We didn't run too much this time, so the data is pretty much limited, but here is the gist of it. You have name of the option and how many times it was loaded during the trace period. So it was loaded on all admin pages and all front pages, so it should be set to yes, and it is. And similar to that, we have an option here that was loaded on all admin pages but none of the front pages, and the recommendation is that auto load should be set to no, because you will in proportion load only a small number of admin pages against a large number of front pages. It is safe to set this option to no. Similar to that, all other options are evaluated, and you can change auto load from here. We can quickly set like this. Let's switch to no, and you can save changes. Documentation contains a lot of information about auto load and what is the best practice. In this case, auto load is useful, but in some cases options can be very large and they can take a lot of memory when loaded, and it can happen that only in few cases this option is needed. So run the analysis, and based on recommendation you can safely switch from yes to no for some options. To summarize, this plugin targets options in WordPress options table and meta values in all WordPress meta tables. Its goal is to determine if certain options are used at all, and if it is safe to delete them. For best results, you should use full trace. You should always make backup of your database before deleting records, and you should have patience for plugin to finish its run and gather as much data as possible so that you can get better recommendation on what you should delete from your database.